the stronger I feel and become in my in abstaining of smoking weed, the weaker I become in this mental game of convincing myself that I should or should not be on it. I think there is this kind of redeveloping desire to smoke and this jealousy of not being able to, the mentality going into using them, hoping sort of and wishing that they will provide a similar sort of escape the way weed does, when no escape is needed or called for. Hey, what's up? I'm Julian. I haven't smoked weed or nicotine for about 3 months and a week. Something like that. Maybe 3.5 months now. Days are starting to feel a little bit longer and longer, and my feelings about weed and being around friends and other people that are smoking weed have been sort of shifting since like a couple videos ago, where I felt a bit more on top of my reactions and emotions to being around people using weed and Nick. It's almost like I'm feeling a type of judgment that I really wasn't feeling earlier about people who are smoking weed that are in my life, and in a way like not really wanting to be around those people as much, because for a couple different reasons that I'm not sure which. Like maybe it's because I'm feeling especially vulnerable right now, and I don't trust myself maybe to not relapse if I spend too much time exposed to weed in the environments that I want to be in. I think there is this kind of redeveloping desire to smoke and this jealousy of not being able to, by my own, determination, in the way that my friends and peers and co-workers maybe are able to. Then because of that, I've recently kind of found myself trying to recreate the dissociation and distance that I can kind of achieve with weed from myself. This as you know, like that almost like out of body separation of mind and thought and body, and this state change, which I've identified as like a state change before. I find myself using some of these party drugs and other substances, not in a concerning way in terms of the amount that I'm using them, but the mentality going into using them, hoping sort of and wishing that they will provide a similar sort of escape the way weed does, when no escape is needed or called for, if that makes sense. In a week or two, I'm going out to visit family in Colorado, a state where I've been smoking really high quality weed on and off for getting close to half my life out there. So it's like I talked about this in an earlier video, but ways to not relapse. A big strategy is to sort of mentally prepare myself, before getting to this place where I know I'm going to have this sense memory and this this kind of uncomfortability of being out of the norm, with the norm being smoking weed in Colorado. Not only is it kind of difficult when I'm there not smoking, but it's also just difficult leading up to it because maybe the anxieties and the things in my life that make me want to kind of disconnect and state change and smoke weed excessively, those I can't, like, I'm looking forward at this trip and kind of anticipating in a scary way for me how I won't be able to, how whatever feelings, whatever thoughts come up while I'm there, I won't be able to kind of manage with weed use. I could, and and that's a choice, and part of the power that we all have about ourselves is having that choice. I think it was a couple of years ago, I hadn't smoked for I don't know what it was, 6 months or something. And I went to Colorado at a similar time in the summer and started smoking weed again. I was like, oh, it's been a while. Maybe I can get a handle on it again. The usual things you tell yourself. And oh, the weed here is such high quality. I won't need as much of it. I'll be able to regulate it. It's only a short trip. Blah, 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 blah. And I mean, 99% of the time that turns back into regular smoking when you go back home too. I'm visualizing the moments of driving kind of past, one of the fucking 12 dispensaries that are in this town and, the feelings that I'm going to feel about kind of wanting to pull over and being in this kind of place that is comfortable to me. I have family there, but it's also unknown, and it's easier to sort of convince yourself that in a new or different or lesser known place, you can safely experiment again with these drugs. So this is part of my process, is making this video and documenting these feelings that I'm having in anticipation of this trip, knowing that I'm going to be having these feelings when I'm there. It's a little layered, I guess, but I think it's really important because I'd rather be thinking about these things now than for the first time than when I'm there dealing with that decision of, do I want to smoke or not smoke? Another thing, the past couple weeks, I would say, I've felt moments where I've felt a lot closer and more likely to reach for a joint that's going around, or ask for a cigarette, or someone's vape, at a rave, at a concert. I can kind of feel this determination of not smoking, sort of weakening in a way. And it's ironic too, and I've talked about this before, but it's the stronger I feel and become in my in abstaining of smoking weed, the weaker I become in this mental game of convincing myself that I should or should not be on it. Going back to kind of searching for a similar state change with other drugs, that's something I want to be very aware of as well. But if I do start to treat these other drugs as supplementations of the weed high, then that's fully the same as just smoking weed again. And that's not what I'm looking for. On a philosophical level, I want to not be seeking out this state change, this dissociation from myself. That's kind of the whole point of this. Experiencing the good and the bad and the difficult, especially, with a clear mind. I've said this before a couple times, but it is very much true in my case, at least, that the longer I go and the stronger I become in my way of not smoking weed and nicotine, the more my mind can work overtime to try to convince me that it's safe to return. So that kind of time, being around that time of, 3 getting to, whatever, it'll be 4 months and a couple weeks, that plus knowing I'm going back to this place where I have, relapsed before is just kind of stressful and has me weary and wanting to be cautious. I want to talk more in these videos about the feelings underneath the wanting to smoke weed and stuff, because it's not, I have no intention of just portraying weed as a bad thing inherently, because it's not. It's my relationship, and maybe your relationships, or some of you, with weed that is kind of the problem. It's not the weed itself. For alcoholics, it's partially the vessel, like alcohol, but it's not the existence of like liquor that, destroys people's lives with alcoholism. It's a combination of what they're dealing with personally and the outlet that they choose to abuse to sort of address some things in their lives. So I don't know, going forward, I don't want to villainize weed. I haven't made a video in I guess a little while, a week or whatever, just because I'm kind of like feeling strung out on my, fortitude right now when it comes to restraining myself. And when I'm feeling that way, it's hard for me to imagine what useful things I might have to say to anyone else. But if anything, it's helpful kind of laying out and speaking out loud the anticipation of returning to this place where I used to smoke a lot of weed, and going into it with a strong point of view about what I want, what my goals are with not smoking. And maybe I'll make a video about that, because everyone has different reasons and everyone to not smoke, and everyone is affected in different ways by smoking. So yeah, I hope it wasn't too much of a downer. I've been reading Ender's Game and the series, the Ender's Game, there's like multiple trilogies in the world of Ender. It's by Orson Scott Card. If you haven't heard of it, it's what an amazing blend of sci-fi and philosophy and humanism. It's really, really awesome books. I cannot recommend them highly enough. That's my little tidbit here at the end. Hope you are all well. Take care. Hit subscribe, or don't, but hit subscribe. Okay. See ya.